If you're on the left side of the screen, you're out. If you're on the right side of the screen, you're in, according to Jerry Palm. North Carolina is joined by Indiana, Oregon, and Michigan as the first four teams out of the tournament right now. So let's bring in the former All-Big Tenner, Tim Doyle, graduate of Northwestern. Let's talk bubble teams, and let's break down a couple of these teams, including North Carolina. They have a really good record, Tim, but the ACC is really soft once you get past Duke. At this point, North Carolina, what is their biggest strength?
Yeah, I think that they have a front court that's as good as anybody in college basketball, led by Armando Bacot, who's averaging a double-double, and then his complementary piece is Brady Manick, the Oklahoma transfer, is able to stretch the floor. I think if you went toe-to-toe talent-wise, North Carolina is as talented as any team in college basketball. That's including some of the top teams out there. It's just about Hubert Davis putting it together and finding a true identity. I talked about Bacot. He's giving you 16 points, leads the ACC in rebounding at 12 rebounds a game. And Maddox, half of his made shots have been threes. So he's making over 2 a game. They're a great 1-2 punch. Now, Love and Davis have been rock solid their last 2 games, but they have to figure out who they are on the defensive end, because right now, Chris, massive question mark there.
Third place in the ACC right now. I mentioned that really good record. Most years they would be a shoo-in for the tournament with that kind of record in the ACC, which used to be the class of college basketball. That is not it any longer. What do they struggle with? Is it the defense that's the biggest thing for you?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I played in the Big East. Well, loosely played. I sat there with, hey, way to go, guys, while I was at St. John's. And then I played in the Big Ten. And it was kind of a universal thought that the best players in college basketball played in the ACC. Now, where do they play? Probably the Big 12, maybe the Big 10. You could argue that, but you're right. For all those years, from the 80s to the 90s to the early 2000s, it was the ACC. And yes, defensively, but last 2 games they've won. And how did they win? Knocked off Virginia Tech. They only gave up 57 points in that game. And then you're right, they didn't stub their toe against Louisville. But in both of those games, Virginia Tech and Louisville, I thought, watching the film and breaking it down X and O wise, defensively in the second half, that was as good as Hubert Davis's team has played all year on defense. Only 27 points allowed in the second half to Louisville. Only 27 points allowed in the second half to Virginia Tech. I mean, this is a team that could have guarded anybody against Duke. They gave up 87 points. They got run out of the gym against the Blue Devils. So I think the biggest question mark is defensively, where's the spirit? Where's the guts, huh? Because the talent is there, and now that the backcourt, Love and Davis, are playing, couple that with the front court, they have the ability. But are they able to punch people in the mouth? Are they able to get physical at times? I think that's the biggest question mark with the ACC right now is, do they have the same physicality to match the Big 12, to match the Big 10? So North Carolina, I think when it's all said and done, they got to make it to the tournament, right, Chris?
I mean, most years you would say yes with that kind of record, but they don't have many chances left. They have NC State this weekend. NC State's not good. They have Syracuse, and then really their only chance the rest of the regular season to notch an important victory is a game at Duke, and it's a Duke team that blew them out on their home floor. So what are their chances of making it?
I think that they're going to lose that Duke game. I think they'll probably be 8 or 9 point underdogs in that game. Let's not forget that's going to be Coach K's last regular season game that he coaches at Cameron Indoor. And honestly, the last game he ever coaches at Cameron Indoor, because then they're going to go to the conference tournament and then the NCAA tournament. So they're not winning that game. And you talk about defense, they give up 72 points per game, North Carolina. Only 2 other teams are worse than them. You're looking at them, North Carolina State and Syracuse, so they don't guard anybody, those 2 teams. So I think that they're going to go 2-1. So that would make them 22-9 with the loss to Duke. You make it to finals, semifinals, the ACC tournament. Obviously, you're not, it's going to come down to the resume. But I think at the end of the day, if I had to bet, got a money bag behind me. I do like to bet. At the end of the day, they will make the NCAA tournament.
Talking with our other experts like Jerry Palm, they say they got to beat somebody at some point, whether it's Duke or whether it's somebody in the ACC tournament. The problem is there just aren't that many teams in the ACC that would give you that bump by beating them. If they can beat Duke, they'll definitely be in the NCAA tournament. But that Pittsburgh loss really hurts them at this point. So they are one of the first 4 teams out of the tournament, according to Jerry Palm. Oregon is another one of those teams on the wrong side of the bubble. The net ranking is not good. It's 63, but they have a huge opportunity Thursday against UCLA. What do the Ducks do best?
Well, when they put it all together, they could beat anybody in college basketball. And ever since the turn of the new year, they've started to put it all together. So if they beat UCLA, that will be 2 wins over the Bruins that you could argue, not too many other teams have as good of wins, especially double dipping and sweeping a series. So Dana Altman, he was really guilty of bringing in transfers and them having a rough time adjusting to that. But you beat UCLA, you won at USC, and opposite of North Carolina, they're going to get opportunities to go out there and get more quality wins. Talked about, who's North Carolina going to beat? Well, you're going to have several opportunities if you're Oregon to go out there and get those statement wins. But what Oregon team's going to show up? The team that was awful in November, the team that was red hot, winners of 9 of 11 between January and February, or the Oregon team that's been playing lately, that's lost 3 or 4. I don't know what we're going to get, but when they put it all together, it seems like they can beat anybody on any given night.
So what's the problem when they don't have it together? What has been their biggest issue?
I think early on in the season it was really simple because they lost to BYU. I called the BYU game. Eyeball test. BYU is not a tournament team. Nice team. Love their coach, Mark Pope. Not only did they lose, got smacked around in that game, 81-49. They also got embarrassed by Houston, lost that game by almost 30, lost to St. Mary's. But when you add in, Will Richardson's been there for 4 years, but Jacob Young's a transfer from Rutgers. Harmon's a transfer for Oklahoma. And you could just tell synergy-wise, like, they didn't figure it out. Now you get into January, you go 6-1. You open up February 3-1, and you're like, all right, we got this figured out. Not so much. Lose a close game to Arizona, and then you get whacked again by Arizona State. Not only did they lose to Arizona State once, they got swept by Bobby Hurley's team, and who's Arizona State? They're not going anywhere fast. So I think when Oregon puts it all together, no doubt, and they're going to have the opportunities, you know what I mean? They have the chances in the Pac-12 to go out there and get signature wins, something that North Carolina and the ACC doesn't have to do. But, man, I don't know what team's going to show up on what given night, Chris.
So it doesn't sound like you like their chances as much as you like North Carolina's chances between those 2 teams.
I think North Carolina is more talented, and I think that now that their backcourt is becoming a little bit more stable, I trust them more. Oregon, maybe the upside is better. When we've seen them at their best, knocking off UCLA, it's like, oh, and then they have the opportunities. 2 more games at home against teams, that they have already beaten. So they have massive chances, but they could win those 2 games and then go get whacked in the Washington series. So if I had to bet, I would bet that at the end of the day, North Carolina gets in, and I bet that Oregon does not. So they're going to have more opportunities at quad run wins. That net rating right now is UGLY, and it ain't have no alibi. So at the end of the day, I do not think Dana Altman's team gets in.
Yeah, usually you really want a top 40 net ranking to feel good about your chances to get into the NCAA tournament. If you're in the 40s, if you're in the 50s, shaky ground. 60s, or in Rutgers' case, 70s, 80s, that's where it gets to be. The math doesn't quite add up. Tim Doyle with us here on CBS Sports HQ as we count down to Selection Sunday, 2 weeks away. Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish firing out coverage on the Ion College Basketball Podcast. Download and follow the pod. They have new episodes 3 times a week this time of year.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.